How many of your employees are trying to balance paying bills and saving for retirement? Support your participants today and tomorrow with Vanguard well on your way at institutional.vanguard.com. All investing is subject to risk. Advice provided by Vanguard Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor.
On today's Smart 7, death toll grows from RAFA airstrikes' new campaign to target fraud, and lots more. It's Tuesday 13th of February, it's World Radio Day, and happy birthday Hugh Dennis.
The Smart 7. It's news, but not the news.
There's growing concern over Israel's intention to begin an assault on Hamas targets in Rafah, an area where more than half of Gaza's population has taken shelter. Israeli airstrikes as part of an operation to free 2 hostages left over 70 dead, according to reports on Palestinian TV. The White House welcomed the release of the 2 hostages and continues to call for an extended humanitarian pause in the fighting, but they also assess that Israel has not as yet begun its proposed Rafah offensive. Speaking beside King Abdullah of Jordan on Monday, US President Biden outlined his plans for bringing some respite to the region.
The United States is working on a hostage deal between Israel and Hamas, which would bring an immediate and sustained period of calm to Gaza for at least 6 weeks, which we could then take the time to build something more enduring.
The UK's Foreign Secretary Lord Cameron was also calling for an immediate pause in the fighting as he cautioned that civilians in Rafah are completely trapped.
It really, we think, is impossible to see how you can fight a war amongst these people. There's nowhere for them to go. So we are very concerned about the situation, and we want Israel to stop and think very seriously before it takes any further action.
With very little sense of irony, the government that presided over what is estimated to be £21 billion worth of fraud during the pandemic launched a new anti-fraud advice scheme on Monday. The scheme is intended to help cut back on fraud, which is estimated to make up 40% of crime in the UK, and it's estimated 3.3 million people fell victim to fraud just last year. The new initiative is the carefully punctuated Stop, Think, Fraud scheme, and Security Minister Tom Tugendhat announced the details on Monday morning.
You know, we know in constituencies like the one I'm lucky enough to represent in West Kent, there are people who are losing thousands of pounds. Now, this is why we've got to fight this crime. We're bringing down fraud by making tech companies and telecoms companies take responsibility for their own actions.
The campaign focuses on fraud affecting individuals, although it's estimated fraud costs businesses in Britain over £150 billion a year. Labour's Nick Thomas-Symonds is unimpressed by the initiative.
It's too little, too late. We had around about 400,000 offences of fraud in 2012. That's up to over 3 million today. But they really have comprehensively failed to tackle fraud.
Prime Minister Rishi Sunak made a special appearance on GB News on Monday night. The channel, which has a number of Tory MPs as presenters, alongside Nigel Farage, hosted a special town hall event with the PM. He was questioned over his Rwanda bill and why he was so determined to stick by something that people don't believe will work. He was busy touting the new deal with Albania to return migrants and new cooperation with the French, but even as he was making the case, the Lords continued the debate on his Rwanda bill. Labour peer Baroness Chakrabarti says that as the bill seeks to overturn findings of fact from the Supreme Court and might be used to block judgments from the ECHR, it's a threat to UK democracy.
My Lords, the Government further purports to ignore interim orders of the European Court of Human Rights. It threatens both the domestic rule of law, especially the separation of powers, and the international rules-based order.
Things are getting tetchy in the US, and we've still got 9 months left until the polls open for the US presidential election. Joe Biden's been batting away commentary after a special prosecutor described him as a well-meaning elderly man who may have memory issues, but it's Donald Trump's latest rant about NATO that's been generating genuine alarm. Trump, who still doesn't understand how NATO works, said at the weekend that unless US allies had paid their bills, he wouldn't stand in the way of Russia if Putin chose to attack. In fact, he welcomed the idea. That's caused consternation across NATO, with the EU's foreign policy chief, Joseph Borrell, the latest to speak out against the former president.
NATO cannot be a la carte military alliance. Cannot be a military alliance that works depending on the humor of the president of the US on those days. Let's be serious.
Still to come on the Smart 7, Chelsea crack Crystal Palace and Cillian Murphy's Courier miracle. Right after this. Welcome back. There was one game in the Premier League on Monday night as Crystal Palace welcomed Chelsea. With both teams in the wrong half of the table, there was pressure on both Roy Hodgson and Mauricio Pochettino to get a result. Palace finished the first half 1-0 up, but the second half saw Chelsea stage a late comeback, with 2 extra-time goals giving a 3-1 result for the visitors. Chelsea manager Mauricio Pochettino was happy that his side seemed to be finally getting a bit of momentum.
I think we start to move and find the space better. I think help to score soon on the second half. Yes, of course, was a second half that was really, really good.
Cillian Murphy is having quite an awards season. He's already picked up a Golden Globe and he's nominated for a BAFTA this weekend, along with an Academy Award nomination for his work in Oppenheimer. He also popped up on Desert Island Discs to chat with Lauren Laverne about his musical tastes, and if you're wondering what his luxury item was, he chose an acoustic guitar and some strings to go along with the complete works of Samuel Beckett. He spoke about his early career and how he got his first break in the play Disco Pigs, which involved some clever work from a Cork courier company.
I'd been pursuing Pat Kiernan around Cork City, and Pat eventually said, "Leave me alone, I'll give you an audition." I read a scene for him, and I went off hitchhiking to France, I remember, and they sent the script to my tent, which I didn't know you could do, but they sent it to my tent. So then I had the part.
Super Bowl night brought not just a flurry of Taylor Swift stories, it also saw pretty much every major star in the US appear in a commercial, with Ben Affleck's Dunkin' Donuts ad one of the best reviewed. There were also a whole host of new movie trailers, including the first trailer for Wicked and a trailer for a whole other kind of buddy movie, Deadpool and Wolverine. It's the third Deadpool movie, and Ryan Reynolds has to do a little time bending to bring his buddy Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine.
This is your chance to be a hero among heroes. I smell what you're stepping in, Sensei. Your little cinematic universe is about to change forever. I'm the Messiah. I am Marvel Jesus.
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day. Give us 7 minutes, we'll give you the world.